Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, Star Wars, and so much more. I'm your host, DJ Wooldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Good morning, Roxy.
Good morning, DJ. Ready to defend Acolyte yet again.
Ooh, brace yourself for them comments. And here to join us, we got a very special guest. Say hi to the kids at home.
What is up, guys?
It's Andres. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for joining us. But before we get into the Star Wars of it all, Andres, who are you? Where can the kids find you?
Yeah, my name is Andres Cabrera. You could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Squad Leader Ace, and then you could find my YouTube channel, First Cut.
Dude, check all that out. There'll be links in the description. But today we are going to be talking about the unfortunate news, at least in this house, the unfortunate news of the Acolyte's cancellation.
DJ, you and I are a house right now.
We're
in this house.
In the OSA house. In the OSA house. The House of OSA. We're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, a little business up top. As always, if you want to watch this show live, if you want to check out a Patreon exclusive content like What We're Into or Spider-Versity, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. We also, if you go over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, thank you, please, and thank you. And we are also pulling comments from YouTube and Spotify from last week's episode where we had Hector on talking about RDJ being cast as Doctor Doom and what that could mean for the future of the MCU. Comic 837 says, the only thing I disagree with Hector on is never having another Iron Man or Steve Rogers again. I love those characters too much to never see them recasted eventually. Give Sam the trilogy as Cap, but I want a soft reboot and for these larger-than-life characters to keep existing in movies. That goes for any major Marvel character. Let their legacy characters have their moment to shine, but then have a triumphant return of the OGs in some way, not to mention that they can coexist when they return too. Luke Dog 80 said, great episode. Love Roxy and Hector's discussion. With that is representative of several comments that appreciated, the different perspectives Roxy and Hector were bringing.
What about Roxy, Hector, and DJ's discussion?
I was moderating. You two were the two titans in the room.
I don't know what. Man, Hector and I find ourselves on the opposite side of every fence, and I love that guy. Yep. I don't know how we end up there.
Arun and 2057 said, I think Marvel will hard reboot after they make a new saga about mutants. I think when Tom Holland is done playing Spider-Man, Sony will definitely reboot Peter Parker. I don't know if we'll see Steve Rogers or Tony Stark after Secret Wars, but it's hard to believe they won't be recast ever again. So Andres, to catch you up,
what I'm saying.
Hector's stance is, and I believe I'm getting this correct, Hector, if you're watching, you can let me know, is not that he thinks that Steve Rogers and Tony Stark should never be recast again. His stance is that they will never be recast again, and Marvel will just keep moving on.
He thinks both, DJ. He thinks they shouldn't, and they won't.
They shouldn't, they won't. I just wanted to clarify that it's not that, like, if he had his druthers, they'd never be recast. That is true, but that's not what he's saying, that they won't be recast. And Roxy and I asserted lovingly.
Ever. Not in 100 years, not in 50 years, that there will never, ever be another live-action Steve Rogers ever again.
Yeah, and we lovingly pointed out that was probably not the case. But Andres, what are your thoughts on that?
No, it's not going to take that long. Yeah. I mean, it'll obviously take a minute, but it's not going to be an extensive amount of time. They're definitely, at this rate, we're bringing back characters like 5 years later.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, the other thing that I neglected to mention in that episode, but because my wife and I just went and saw Alien Romulus last night, and there was a Captain America Brave New World trailer, and it's worth pointing out, Anthony Mackie has been in one less Captain America movie than Steve Rogers. It's not like he's a spring chicken either, and Sebastian Stan has been in every Captain America movie. They've been around just as long as the Chris Evanses of the world. So it's not like...
But they haven't had their moment in the sun.
That's true.
Like, it's a little bit different. But I do hear you. A lot of these people that are in the MCU have been in the MCU for a decade or more. And that's cool. But at some point, we're going to get different Steve... What Hector said was that we told the Steve Rogers story. That's it. That was the only Steve Rogers story to tell. There's never going to be another Steve Rogers story. So what's the point of recasting? So they won't.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think there are many stories. That's what comic books are all about.
Well, and the fact that comics that don't need to recast or worry about aging cannot for the life of them let go of people like Steve Rogers. It's like, well, then the movies, come on. So also, if you guys want to check over my personal channel, DJ Talks Trash, I've been doing some one-on-one discussions over there. I got a new one dropping with Christian Harloff, I believe, this week. Yes, we talk about some of the UAP stuff. Also,
oh my gosh, are you coming around?
No. Also, what was the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, the pre-order store for Hellbent. The Hellbent Complete Edition is live now. So if you missed the Kickstarter, you can go over to the pre-order store. Just go to hellbentcomicbook.com, click pre-order store, and it'll take you right there. And if you did back the campaign, fill out your backer summaries, please, and thank you. Your backer quiz. What is it called? Backer survey. I got there. Please fill it out. Please and thank you. Check all that out. But now, before we get into the main topic for today, I do have some news. Buckle up, everybody, because get ready for Chick-fil-A TV. That's right. Chick-fil-A, this is via Deadline. Chick-fil-A is moving aggressively into the entertainment space with plans to launch a slate of originals for its own streaming platform. Deadline understands that the fast food firm has been working with a number of major production companies, including some of the studios, to create family-friendly shows, particularly in the unscripted space. Ooh. It is also in talks to license and acquire content. We hear that this includes a family-friendly game show from Glassman Media, the company behind NBC's The Wall, and Michael Sugar's Sugar 23, which is behind series such as Netflix's 13 Reasons Why. Deadline understands that this show has been handed a 10-episode order. Chick-fil-A, known for its fried chicken sandwiches, is the latest company outside of the entertainment industry to move into making its own originals. It joins the likes of Lyft, which has produced shows such as Lucky Lift, a game show hosted by Bob the Drag Queen, and Airbnb, which previously produced a documentary, Gay Course Deep South, that aired on MTV. I love so much that the two examples they give. Like, hey, by the way, Chick-fil-A is not the first one out of the gate for this. We got Airbnb and Lyft, and the two shows they got are 1,000% shows Chick-fil-A won't make.
Yeah, they be queer shows. Yeah. Chick-fil-A is down with the queers,
So how does this make us feel in our hearts?
You guess first. Speak now or forever hold your Chick-fil-A, Andres.
I mean, I kind of want to hear your thoughts right away.
No, you first. No, you.
I think this is the downfall of humanity. I'm so concerned about this. Like, it used to be that anybody who had money could throw their money at a project, right? So we've had producers for years who have been POSs and that put in money for things that don't go towards their beliefs, that go completely against their beliefs, but they're doing it because they're money hungry and they want to make money. And that's something that we've just dealt with as a society. Yeah. But now it's like, you get a streaming service. And I think there's a legitimate market for this. I think that there are people out there. I cannot call myself one of them. And honestly, I have to tell you guys, not to toot my own horn, I'm a proud can say this sentencer. I have never had a bite of Chick-fil-A in my life. Mm-hmm. I've never tried it. I have no interest in trying it. They had one when I went to USC. There was a Chick-fil-A. I could throw a rock and hit it, and I still never went. It's just not for me. The harder that they fought and pushed, the more difficult it was. Not to mention they weren't open on Sundays, which was the day I was most hungover anyway. Mm-hmm. So just Chick-fil-A and Roxy never shook hands. But I think that there is a market for this, because when there was everything going down with Chick-fil-A and everybody was talking about how they were pro-life, which is called being anti-choice, and they were very extremely anti all gay rights. I saw the line get longer, and that was in LA. I saw the line get longer. I saw it triple. I saw people standing out there like, we believe in Chick-fil-A. So they have supporters, and those supporters, I do believe, will watch their Christian, non-queer television proudly. And I bet they make a ton of money off of this. And good for you guys. I certainly won't be watching.
Yeah, I feel like this is a trend, obviously, as well. But we see it with the, what is it called? Angel Pictures.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we see a lot of faith-based movies now, especially after Sound of Freedom, getting greenlit, getting a lot of promotion. I think I saw a trailer before, Alien Romulus for one. It's just becoming a trend a lot more and more, where people are a little bit more open about investing into these types of stories, where they want to see, I guess, like a four quadrant version of not quite faith-based, but pretty much faith-based movie or show. And I feel like maybe Chick-fil-A is going to tap into that kind of market, which is making a lot of money, right? It's definitely, people are supporting it in a lot of ways, because I feel like people are supporting it because it's really easy to hide the fact that it is faith-based, and they make it more like uplifting, Oscar, cry movie, instead of like a, faith-based, this is what we're supporting kind of movie, which is why I personally feel like people should be aware of it, and they should be a little bit more upfront with what they're actually supporting, which is what was the whole debacle as far as last year when it came to that.
Yeah, so having grown up in a Christian community, I can tell you that making faith-based media is a really good grift, because it depends, obviously, there's a spectrum, but you're kind of told that like everything outside of Jesus is bad. But also movies are cool and people like music. So you're able to create an avenue by which, maybe your band or your movie or whatever would not be able to break through if it was competing directly with the Deadpools and the Wolverines of the world. But if you're siloed off of like, well, this is the Jesus stuff and we're competing with the Jesus stuff. And so this is your, like, literally, I remember there was a poster in my youth group that our youth pastor had up that was like, hey, if you like Linkin Park, here are some Christian alternatives. So these bands, instead of competing with something like Linkin Park, are able to carve out a niche for themselves about being the Jesus version of that, right? So what interests me about, so as you all are pointing out, this is a good, like, people getting on buses to go see, Passion of the Christ or whatever. I also think there were church buses going to see Darren Aronofsky's Noah, which I'm more supportive of, because that was a fucking weird ass movie, and I like Darren Aronofsky. He makes movies I like. But what I don't understand, because the reference points they give, and I don't, these are shows, not channels. Like, where's this channel gonna go, right? Because when you talk about this Lyft show or this Airbnb show, I haven't even heard of these, so I'm assuming they're streaming on the Roku channel or one of these.
Do you do Lyft, DJ?
Oh, wait, so then maybe you're about ready to answer my question. Maybe this channel will play in Chick-fil-A stores.
The Lyft now, in most Lyfts, they have what like you used to know in a taxi, which would be a screen that goes over the back. And that's where I've seen this play. I don't know that means that's where it's exclusive to. But it's in Lyfts most of the time now. There is a screen that they give to the driver, or I don't know whether they give it to them or they pay the driver for it or what the exchange is, but they're in a lot of Lyfts. I haven't seen it on my Roku, and you have a Roku too, DJ, so I think we would have seen it there, but likely it's got an interface somewhere.
I think
the cars.
I think the most extreme version of what concerns me about this, weirdly, is Amazon Prime. The fact that the company I pay for free shipping is also how I watched the Batman Caped Crusader. You know what I mean? This idea of like,
I watched the pilot of that, DJ. I watched the pilot.
Why? You don't really like the animated stuff.
I know. Steph Sabra forced me. We did it for World Girls.
It's good. It gets better. But also, like, having grown up with Batman animated series, it's like, I've seen this before.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, it gets better, but that's beside the point. Anyway, this idea of, like, we are a corporation that is in charge of your food that you consume, but also the media you consume, and also the whatever. It's like that. I don't like that. That makes me. It's more egregiously obvious with the Chick-fil-A channel, but it's also true of stuff like Amazon Prime.
It's giving monopoly. It's highly alarming. However, the thing though is that, like, I can't come out here and say that I don't think that there is a place in the world for faith-based film and television. There absolutely is. And if people could recognize the teachings of their homeboy Jesus, my fellow Jew, love everyone. And if that was the stance for all faith-based things, accept and love thy neighbor, we would be in really good shape. And maybe the content just wouldn't be for me, but I think there could still be a beautiful place in the world for it. Do I think that the concept of making whatever those shows or movies is, and then in order to watch them, you have to go to Chick-fil-A is brilliant for Chick-fil-A to get more butts in their seats? Yes, that could absolutely work, but that is what you're talking about, DJ. It's weird. Like, so now you guys are a restaurant and you are a symbol and you're a production company and you're a distributor.
Yeah.
And your theater?
Boo. I don't like it. Boo. And similarly, it makes me think of, I think Netflix created a really good platform for distribution, and then they got into creating their own content. And I would argue that has been hit or miss. Mostly, I think by design, just because they produce so much stuff. And so you take that to even further where it's like you make chicken sandwiches and now you're making content. It's like, that's not... Stop it. Y'all need to just stop. Everybody stop.
Feel you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, gang, that wasn't the only news fit to print this week because Rotten Tomatoes has updated its rankings. It's added a new one. We've got for audience scores, which we've seen that little popcorn bucket, but I guess what we have now is an official title. We've got stale, hot, and verified hot. This comes via THR. In order for a film to receive the verified hot designation, it needs to have a verified audience score of 90% or higher on its popcorn meter, among other eligibility requirements. Rotten Tomatoes will only use audience reviews from people whom it has verified as having purchased a ticket to that film via sister company Fandango. Ooh, integration. The ticketing firm also owned by Comcast. God damn it, shit is bleak. The first films to receive the verified hot badge include Deadpool and Wolverine, Twisters, Bad Boys Ride or Die, Fly Me to the Moon, and It Ends With Us. The site is also adding the badge retroactively to more than 200 films. The site also will include a general hot badge on its audience-led popcorn meter for films where at least 60% of the reviews garner at least 3.5 stars out of 5, and a stale badge for films that fall below that threshold. And we know, like, Rotten Tomatoes has done such a good job wrangling those audience scores, making sure bad faith actors can't use that to target specific things. How that doesn't pertain to our conversation today. How do we feel about verified hot? Andres, do you feel verified hot?
I don't. and I don't know. I think we're at a point now. I personally feel like, as a society, I guess I could say, where the audience score just kind of has no meaning or purpose. I mean, I guess you can for certain films that are maybe not as popular and not as, I don't know, polarizing, and people can kind of go in there and give their thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
But besides those movies that are very few and far between, most films are already going to have an opinion on it, regardless. So people are going to either overinflate it or, bomb it. So I just feel like it has no bearing anyway. So I'm not sure if it really matters to me, if they're really adding any more flair to it.
I also wonder, because they specifically used as reference movies and Fandango and integration and all that stuff for our discussion today. I wonder how that pertains to shows. How do you verify that somebody has watched a show? Yeah. Roxy, thoughts on verified hot?
Theoretically, I like the concept of audience members' scores mattering, because I don't typically agree with the critics. I typically agree with audiences. And I don't mean the audience score. I mean audiences. Like, when I talk to my friends from back east, and they're all like, what are you guys talking about? This movie's amazing. I'm like, I know. I think it's amazing too. I tend to agree with the people.
Yeah.
However, I can't remember the last time I bought a ticket on Fandango. I go to the movies a couple times a week, and I buy a ticket at the theater.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going with a friend, maybe they buy my ticket and then I Venmo them. Or people go to a fan screening of something. Or you buy it from the website of the movie theater, like AMC or Regal or whatever it is that you're doing. And I'm somebody who, I love Rotten Tomatoes. I've worked for Rotten Tomatoes. I love Fandango. I've worked for Fandango. I use them for so many things. Purchasing tickets is not one of them, typically. So I have to wonder who is the audience member who now who does that,
because they want their review to be verified.
I guess maybe. Yeah. And also, are people spiteful enough that they buy tickets and they just try to tank movies because there's an abortion scene in it and they don't want it to be seen? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really know how you do verify that somebody has seen the movie, and also think that they're like, I almost think you should quiz people. Yeah. Like 5 questions, and if you can answer these 5 questions right, you can vote on whatever the score is.
I would imagine. I don't know either, because I also don't buy my tickets through Fandango. Typically, I have, but not typically. There's a service fee. I don't like it.
I feel you. Yeah. I feel you. If you can wait and just get it there, if you're not going the first weekend or second weekend of the film, then I just go to the theater and I'm at the mall and I go look for tickets, and then I go eat, and then come back for the movie.
Yeah. So, but I imagine it's all the same account. I imagine if you're Fandango, like I do have a Fandango account, I would imagine that would be the same as my Rotten Tomatoes account, and there would be some sort of connectivity there. But to your point, it's not that this is impossible to game.
Yeah, for sure not. I wonder if this would affect anybody though. Like, is there anybody out there who's like, I'm only gonna go see a movie if the certified hot symbol's on there?
That's it. That is a good. Maybe. I think you're right though, in that what will probably be more. Here's how Rotten Tomatoes work. If you like a movie, you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score and you're like, and it's good. You're like, yes, validation. The system agrees with me. Or if you like the movie and you see that the people don't like it, you're like, well, these ratings never met. You know what I mean? It's a Rorschach test that you feed your own feelings on the movie into, right?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I feel that way, DJ, but you and I are pretty on top of, and I'm sure Andres, you too, watching movies quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more for the people after the fact, right? Like, my dad will call me if I recommend a movie, then he'll call me and be like, it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, after I'll recommend something, and the movie will be 3 years old.
Yeah. I will sometimes, like, if I'm, I'm assuming a lot of people have this, where you're sitting down, you're getting ready to stream something, and you're hit with a billion choices, and you're like, oh my God, what am I streaming tonight? And I'll be like, I kind of want to see this movie. And then I'll look it up on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like both the critic and the audience score are real low. I'll watch it eventually. Good example would be Gone in 60 Seconds. I kicked that can down the road. Turns out I love that movie. It's stupid in the way that I love. But
I never saw it.
It's dumb, but it's funny to be in like the early stages of trying to cash in on the Fast and Furious back when it was a street racing show or movie. Anyway, so I think you're right, Roxy, that maybe it is less to do. I don't know. Maybe modern movies, but I know for me, it's more of like a. Movie's been out a few decades. How am I feeling? What's the consensus? You know what I mean? Compared to other things that I could stream that night. How do I feel? But like we mentioned, this is primarily focused on movies. That piece of news is primarily focused on how they're going to keep people in movies from gaming the system. Let's move over to a TV show. I believe Andres used the word polarizing. And that is a good way. I don't know that I agree that that's how people should feel about The Acolyte, but that sure seemed to have been the discourse around The Acolyte. And this week on August 19th, Deadline reported that The Acolyte would be canceled. Quote, the story of The Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with a second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amandla Stenberg. And as a fan, like I said, in this house, we are fans of The Acolyte. Andres, you haven't been on the show. How are your feelings on The Acolyte before we get into it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I definitely felt like it had a lot to offer to the Star Wars universe with the characters, the creativity, the concept behind it, the idea of the Jedi, almost kind of being a little bit more antagonistic in the series. I definitely felt like I could feel the rushness of it all. I felt the editing of it all when it came to individual episodes, where you did feel like maybe they were trying to rush past this like under 40-minute timeline a little bit. And I definitely felt like if they slowed down, they would have had a little bit better character moments and better heartfelt moments that made everything a little bit more believable and the stakes a little bit higher. And I feel like that also plays. I have a lot of thoughts, DJ.
Yeah.
That also plays into the idea of this show not coming back. The idea that Leslye Headland probably created a much, much longer cut of this show. And we're probably not going to see that anyways because season 1 was cut down so much. I could just feel it. I could just feel this is the edited down studio version of Acolyte season 1. And yet I still enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, I think Roxy and I have discussed it before. We really enjoyed what it was bringing to the franchise. And I think something I've been kind of... my first reaction to because I was thinking a lot about people's reactions that, Roxy, all of us, we've all been in this space for a while, but Roxy's the TV girl, so I guarantee she's had the same situation I've had where somebody's like, hey, my favorite show from like 20 years ago, you should definitely check it out. It's 10 seasons, but don't worry, by season 5, it definitely gets good. And it's like, it's so interesting that, or for another example, my wife had never seen Star Trek The Next Generation. I grew up, my parents watched it, so I grew up watching it, so we went back and watched it. And that is a show with a devoted fan base, a lot of passionate fans that pretty much universally agree that the first 2 seasons aren't very good. And those are 2 24-plus episode seasons. And so we used to exist in a time where you could let a show find its audience over 40-plus hours to kind of figure out its land legs. And The Acolyte had 8 episodes to not just find its audience, but be one of the biggest shows in the world because of how expensive it was. It needed to be one of the biggest shows on streaming. And I think that's a little unfair. That's a little unfair. And and I think is a barometer for some of the things that aren't quite working within the modern TV landscape. But Roxy, how did you feel about this cancellation?
This is the saddest part, DJ. I think that I liked this show as much or more than anybody I knew. Mm-hmm. I loved the show.
Yeah.
It to me was refreshing. I loved the characters. I felt like it was young and vibrant. The performances were great. I thought it looked amazing. But maybe the least favorite part of my week every week was getting into conversations about this show with people. Yeah, because they were so mad and everybody tried to convince me not to love this show, which I think is a really weird part of society in general. I don't think I've ever tried to convince anybody not to love anything.
Yeah.
You love something, word, stoked for you. That's awesome that you love that piece of art. It's not my job to convince you not to like something. If anything, I feel like it's not even my job to convince somebody to like something, but that's at least a nicer thing to do.
Yeah,
oh, have you thought about it from this way or this way? So I was stoked when this was canceled. Because I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
And that's so scary and crazy and sad. But when it was canceled, I felt relief in a way that I was confused about because I didn't want to do another season of people in my DMs screaming at me because I like a TV show. And this was the most toxic screaming at me because I liked a show that I've had in a long time. I just didn't want to do it again. So when it got canceled, or I know the whole conversation is that technically being canceled if you're not asked back for season 2?
Yes. Right? Yes.
Have you not seen all that discourse?
No, I haven't. But I think that's the definitionally cancel. They don't normally say greenlit for season 2. Actually, never mind. Now you don't. That's cancellations are like, no, you're not doing a season 2. That's cancellation.
I think it's semantics, but technically I don't know because really something being canceled means it was picked up and then
it would assume that they did have they were greenlit for season 2, which they never were.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why it was never canceled.
Yeah.
Right. So technically I hear the argument. I just don't care if people use the word or not. Because I have so many more fish to fry than that. But I guess it just is not being picked up again. And when I heard that, as somebody who loved the show, I was like, good. Okay, I don't have to do this again. That sucks.
I think it's to go back to this idea of giving a property time to find its audience, because like you, Roxy, obviously there was a lot of vitriol. I think you had a lot more direct connection to that because of other shows you do than I did. But I was interested to see that by the end of the show, and I don't know if it was algorithm stuff or whatever, but I did see a lot of positive feedback towards the show. And of course, it was mostly people that I don't normally, they are definitely Star Wars fans that exist like this, but they're not normally part of the discourse. Women, queer people, people of color, that were all very supportive of the show. Of course, all being shouted down by 40-year-old white men. And it's like you made, and that's part of the frustration for me, you made something, which is, even on a business level, is smart. We need to bring in, we can't keep talking to the same group of people. We need to bring in people that would not necessarily consider themselves Star Wars fans, or if they do, are not part of that discussion. Let's try and bring those people in. You made something specifically for that endeavor, and then let it. And I do understand the aspect of the show is crazy expensive, and that's another conversation we have. Not every show is Game of Thrones. I don't know why episodes of TV cost so much money. I'm going to assume most of it's grift, but and I understand that's part of it. Similar with She-Hulk, which we also loved.
And yet we're not paying our editors, and we're not paying our casting directors, and we're not paying our actors, and we're not paying our writers.
But you're spending like millions of dollars per episode. Like, where's the money going? Anyway, but I think about keeping it within the Star Wars milieu. I remember when the first the animated Clone Wars movie came out, and we were first introduced to Ahsoka, and I remember everybody hated that animated movie. It's not good. And specifically, everybody hated Ahsoka. And now, not only is the Clone Wars show beloved, Ahsoka is beloved enough that she has her own live action show. And I feel like if that show came out now, we'd be murdered in the crib. Andres, I feel like of the three of us, you are the most likely to have watched and enjoyed Clone Wars. Do you have any thoughts, the animated series? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean we're living in a time now where a lot of the stuff that we've enjoyed probably wouldn't exist now, right? I definitely remember Clone Wars being the biggest example of that, and not just the idea of Ahsoka coming into the movie, the animated style that got criticized, but then the doubling down of it with the season one being received horribly. And then the tripling down of it with like, we're just going to keep doing it, even though it was considered to be a kind of expensive animated show at that time.
Yeah.
But they tripled down to continue on the story. And then now it's become one of the most beloved shows. And a lot of the people who are a part of this hatred, toxic side of the fandom always look back to that show with a lot of pride and a lot of joy and are like, this is Star Wars. And it's like, you were also attacking this show.
Yeah.
It's... just because I feel like I have a PhD in like Star Wars fandom, because I was behind the scenes for like the sequel trilogy when it was coming up during the Schmoes days, back when Schmoes was just like heavy into like the Star Wars stuff, and I just remember the comments and the fans and the conversations happening, and I just feel like this is just a continuation of that, right? Almost like a growth, an avalanche effect where. This has been happening since then, since the sequel trilogy came out or before the sequel trilogy came out. And it's now grown to the point of like, now they almost feel effective, where this toxic side of the fandom that is so vitriol, that is so filled with hatred, and that doesn't want you to enjoy this show is now almost kind of claiming a victory with this,
emboldened,
right? Yeah, because they could say, hey, look, we're being listened to. Mm-hmm. And if that is the case, which it feels like it is the case, to be honest, and if that is the case, it's hurtful, it's limiting in the scope of what Lucasfilm can do. You're really limiting your scope if you're only targeting these kind of fans that are only bad faith fans and are not really fans at all, and have already decided to hate the show before the show came out. So in that sense, I just feel like it's hard to separate it, to detach it. And that's why I feel like Roxy's feelings are so valid, because it's almost impossible to detach this show from the toxic side of the conversation, because I feel like that was just so a part of it. It was just so much more a part of it that it feels like this is Lucasfilm saying, hey, what's up, bigots? We got your back. Like, we listen to you.
Yeah.
We got you. We're canceling the show. It's not coming back. Only, white dudes in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker season 2. Here we go. Like, it's just going to be. I just feel like it's grim. It's just really grim out there.
I totally hear you. And for me, the really frustrating thing, DJ, as you pointed out, is that I'm a television first and foremost. So like I'm a television girl.
Yeah.
So when people talk about their fandoms, like Ace is a Star Wars boy. Like that is your thing. I like Star Wars. Yeah. I don't really have a fandom the way obviously DC of all of them is kind of my jam, but my fandom is the medium of television. Yeah. It always has been. I'm a TV diehard. Why do I love television so much? Because when I grew up, this was what you came to school and you were talking about. When I was bullied and a nerd and nobody wanted to talk to me because I was chubby and smelly and was in a public school where people were throwing erasers and pencils at me. Yeah. I could watch a show and find somebody who had seen the show and talk about the effing show. It's like the original version of water cooler conversation. So when people say, just don't look online. If you love a show, just don't look online. The whole point of television to me is to connect with people. Yeah. I don't want to watch TV in a bubble. Yeah. It's not why I love television. It's not because I'm like, oh, I have to watch the Star Wars show. It's because I'm like, TV is my connection to people. As a person now in her 30s who is single and lives alone, it's still my fucking connection to people. Yeah. Television every week brings you to the same people. That's why I also don't like when shows drop everything all at once. I like to have a reason weekly to discuss things with people that I see that are about things that we love and we're passionate about. And what happens to me when I watch a show that I don't like is that I stop watching it. Because I don't want to talk to people about it because if they like it, word, but I'm just not going to watch that show because that one wasn't for me. So I don't need to talk about it by the water cooler because I didn't like the show. So I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. So I wish that what happened was the people who didn't like Acolyte that were valid for not liking it, like, not people who were like, non-binary people taking over television. It's so gay. When there was like literally no queerness to the show. And I was bummed because I wanted to see the moms make out the whole time because they're cute. But like when there was none of that, and the people who were like that, that's not what I'm talking about. But some people that I know, like Steph Sabra, who didn't like the show because she likes other shows. She loves Andor. This isn't her bag. Those people just slowly would stop watching the show because it wasn't for them. Yeah. The people like me and like you who like the show would prevail. And then every week we could just talk about the show that we liked because that's what human connection is. Yeah. That's what I wish. But we didn't get that.
And I think as we kind of all got our start in fandom communities, you know what I mean? And something I've been a big proponent of is not everything needs to be for everybody, or at least for one specific person. Like if your favorite MCU movie is Winter Soldier and the Avengers movies, She-Hulk doesn't necessarily, that brand is big enough, can be a big enough umbrella to allow for a She-Hulk that maybe not be for you. It was for me. I think that's great. But I like it when stuff like She-Hulk and the Acolyte are like, hey, we're going to mess with the formula. You know what I mean? We're going to, and I think another thing that frustrates me about the discourse on that show and on the Acolyte is one of the complaints that was constantly leveled. It's going to be in our comments. I guarantee it. It's going to be like, well, I'm glad it was canceled because they clearly hated the source material. And it's like, get the fuck out, because that is obviously not true. You're not going to pull a deep cut like Cartosis or whatever it was called, and you don't love Star Wars. Get the fuck out of here. It's just not doing what you want to do. And that should be okay, man. Like if you want your fandom, if you want your community to thrive and grow, and I also, whatever, we don't need to relitigate all that. I do want to say, because all of us are kind of talking about a lot of the bad faith arguments, and I guarantee another comment we're going to get is like, you guys keep talking about people that dislike it for valid reasons, but you never bring up their complaints or whatever. It's like, yeah, because I haven't heard them, honestly. I hear the writing's bad. Explain. Well, fires in space. Have you seen a Star Wars? Have you watched a Star Wars? Because guess what? The Acolyte wasn't the first time we saw fires in space.
But DJ, there's some complaints that I don't agree with, but I hear them. Like, they don't like looking at the same story from two different perspectives. They felt like we retold the same plot just from two different ways, and that wasn't a good use of our time. I love that device. Yeah. I like when we see it from this angle and then this angle. Some people don't like that.
Those are my favorite critiques on stuff, is like, I don't know, I kind of just wish it was more boring. It's like, sure, I guess.
Yeah, but that is allowed. Yeah, you are allowed to say, I don't like when we go through one character's perspective and then we go to a reverse character's perspective. I hope if that's how you feel about this show, that's how you feel about all shows, because so many shows use that device.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a legitimate criticism. It's a legitimate criticism to say, I don't think that this character works for me. I'm not attached to this character. Yeah. This character is not somebody that I care about to follow because we're not in sync. So I have heard some things about this show that people don't like. Even Andres was saying, there were certain issues that you had with the show. Everybody has issues. I have issues with my favorite show of all time, right? Like I have major issues with Friends. It's my favorite show of all time. And yet for 10 seasons, I think there was 3 Black characters on the entire show.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have criticisms of things that you still love, or you're allowed to have criticism of things you don't like. And that's valid. So I do think that there is some. And I do bring them up on the show. That part, I don't really understand when people are like, you haven't brought any of it up. I feel like for 10 weeks, I've been bringing up people's criticism of the show and then combating it with my opinion.
Yeah. That's the problem, Roxy, is you explain how you disagree. And you just should stop. You just say, yes, these are the criticisms and they are valid. End of show.
Andres, I feel like you've had something that you got to get out. You got to say.
Oh, no. I mean, there's so much I want to say. But at the same time, it's just hard. I personally feel like what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of what you're saying, DJ, stems from that side. Mm-hmm. And I call it like the fall down, trickle down effect, or the avalanche effect, where you don't know that's where it's coming from. And people really don't know what that means. Because I see that a lot too. I follow a lot of Star Wars content creators, mm-hmm. and they were talking about that, where it is simple to say, hey guys, by the way, don't say you don't want to watch this show because Amandla is the lead, because we all know that's why we don't want to watch the show. Just say bad writing, and then it just becomes a talking point.
Yeah.
And then they just type bad writing, and then you just go to their profile and it just says like, I'm a bigot, I hate Black people.
And
it's like, oh, you mean you hate Black people? Like it's hard to differentiate the fact where when you want to clarify, what do you mean by bad writing? Well, this and that, and a woman's the lead. And it's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It stems from that same side of the fandom. It's not coming from a place of like actually engaging with the source material. They just want to find an excuse that's not saying the stuff out loud that other people are saying out loud.
Yeah.
It's hard to differentiate it, but it's there, and you just kind of got to look for it.
Yeah, and I find it discouraging that seemingly the most universally beloved Star Wars property is the one where a guy never takes off his helmet and he hangs out. It's basically a show starring 2 action figures, and it's like that. None of you guys are concerned. None of these fans are concerned about that. Anyway.
I love that show, though.
I know, and I'm not saying, like, again, this is what you're kind of talking about. Like, the Mandalorian, increasingly, it never quite was for me, but increasingly it wasn't for me. Because, again, I feel like, for me, it was always too fan servicey. That's why something like Andor, which tonally is very different than traditional Star Wars, or The Acolyte, which has been doing stuff that I've wanted Star Wars to do for years, where it's like, hey, just saying light side good, dark side bad is kind of generic. What if we really again, I grew up, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I grew up in a religious community, and it's like, it's never that, when it comes to belief systems, it's never that simple. And so introducing the ideas that like not all the Jedi are on the same page, actually let's flesh out the Sith's perspective. And also there'll probably be people that interact with the Force that don't even buy into this whole light side, dark side, and have their own perspective on it. I'm like, that's perfect. DJ, great. Thank you.
DJ, you stop watching shows all the time.
I do want,
like, this isn't for me, so I'm not going to watch it. That's normal person behavior.
Yeah.
Normal person behavior is watching something, realizing it's not for you, and then deciding, I'm actually not going to watch this.
I'm just not going to watch it. Like. I will say, I do watch plenty of stuff I also don't like because of what we do, of what we cover.
Because we talk about it on air. But usually you'll let me take those conversations. Like, if you and I come to the show, DJ, and I like something and you don't, you'll have me lead that. You'll be like, all right, Rox, why'd you like it?
Yeah.
Instead of, let's shred it to Roxy and try to take her down and convince her to hate this thing. That's weird people behavior. That's not normal people behavior.
Yeah. In the Discord, Jake Hefner asked, do you think there's any real hope for the future of Star Wars as far as TV and film goes? The lack of support for the Acolyte feels like a large nail in the coffin if Disney execs are going to kowtow to the toxic fans and cancel a show trying to do something different. I'm going to run down the list that I could find through multiple sources of what they have said is in development. Keep in mind, the only one we've seen any movement on is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, aka the Mandalorian season 4. We have that picture from? This is concept art when they announced it.
Oh.
So this is a little dated at this point. Okay. We've got the Skeleton Crew, which I have a question from the Discord that's a follow-up on that. We've got Mandalorian Grogu. We've got the Rey movie. We've got the Dawn of the Jedi film from James Mangold. We've got Dave Filoni's New Republic movie, the Thrawn movie. Andor season 2 is happening. We're already filming it. That I don't know how they pulled that one off, but they knew they were doing 2 seasons from the bat. So, and we're getting Ahsoka season 2. Here's the maybe list, stuff we've heard, but I've not heard of anything since.
DJ, staying on those for 1 second.
Yes.
How many of those have dates?
I think a few of them do. Andor season 2 is next year. Ahsoka season 2, I don't know. I think the Mandalorian and Grogu is coming out May 22nd, 2026. So 2 years from now. Skeleton Crew's coming out later this year. Rey and Dawn of the Jedi and the Dave Filoni movie do not have dates.
And the 2026 is the first movie that we're going to have from Star Wars since 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know. Here's the maybes. We got the Taika Waititi film. We got Rogue Squadron, which I guess is back in development. I saw. We'll see. We've got a Sean Levy film. We've got the
What's the Sean Levy film? Is there any details on that?
Deadpool and Wolverine. Sean Levy is apparently on deck to make a movie. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I got. The Lando TV show is now being reworked as a movie. And then there, Kevin Feige apparently is supposed to be producing a movie. Here's the ones that I don't think have been officially canceled, but are as probably dead. The Rian Johnson trilogy and Benioff and Weiss making a trilogy. I'm going to throw this to Andres. How many of these do you think are actually going to see the light of day?
Probably none of the ones that were on the latter half.
Yeah.
The only one that maybe could happen. Definitely not Rogue Squadron. Probably the Lando one, just because if not childish.
Don Glover. If he actually does it, then that'll happen.
if he actually invests in it and he wants to do it, I'm sure Lucasfilm would probably agree to it.
Yeah.
But all those other ones
would be cool.
Probably not happening. Yeah.
That would be great. I would love a Lando movie. Yeah. I would love a Lando TV show more because TV.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Okay. And I like everything that he ever does. Honestly, I can't think of a single project he did that I didn't love. So the first half of things, Andres, you think all yes?
Yeah. The first half, because most of them have dates, and then most of them were announced on Star Wars Celebration, I believe. The only one that's not been talked about a lot recently is the Dawn of the Jedi movie, but I'm pretty sure that's probably still happening. The only other reason. That's the James Mangold First Jedi movie.
It's a movie about the first Jedi. Yeah.
What'd you say, DJ?
It's about, I was co-signing Andres. It's about the first Jedi ever, basasically.
Do we know him?
James Mangold?
No. I know James Mangold.
Okay, sorry.
Do you know the First Jedi?
No.
I mean,
it'll probably be a new creation. I'm sure there's something in
there's a comic about it, but I don't think that matters.
I mean, in canon, is this a character you guys know or no?
There was a Dawn of the Jedi comic, but that's Legends, so that doesn't count anymore. So if they do the same thing they did with post trilogy, like the sequel trilogy, they're not going to follow that.
That sounds exciting to me.
Yeah.
The First Jedi, and look at my little sexist ass. The first thing I said was, "Do you know him?" Could be a woman.
Could be Roxy. It won't be.
Do you know him?
It won't be. It'll be a guy. It'll be a white guy. It'll definitely be a white guy.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably not a woman, but I'm just saying it could be. And honestly, realistically, it probably should be a woman. Who's gonna be in touch with the Force? Oh, dude, come on. It's a girl from Salem for sure. Okay, this is kind of more exciting than any conversation I've had about Star Wars in a long time, because I think a lot of those things sound really good to me.
Yeah, I agree if we see them.
Yeah, I don't know about that because I don't know about,
I agree. I just feel I'm not worried about everything that was announced previous to this.
Yeah.
I'm worried about everything that's coming after, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm looking 5 years down the road. I'm looking past that, where I just don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest question mark when it comes to Star Wars. I feel like Mandalorian Grogu, Rey movie, all that kind of stuff, people can be like, thumbs up. And I'm like, sure, thumbs up. I just feel like the Acolyte cancellation makes a precedent for future Star Wars projects, stuff that haven't even been written yet, stuff that they have to start creating concepts and ideas for that are probably going to be shot down right away because of what has happened with the Acolyte. That's my fear. Is like now they're going to be like, well, we tried that with the Acolyte. It didn't work. So give me a different idea that is, Mandalorian, just an angry white guy with guns, or an angry Jedi who's going to, mow down people. Like, it's going to be so simplistic to the point that we're just going to have the same formula because we tried to switch up the formula, and now Lucasfilm is going to be eager to shoot down anything that's not a part of that. That's my fear.
Yeah, and I would think that if I were part of the production team behind the Rey movie, I'd be like, let's see if we get this one out of the gate.
Why, DJ?
Because of the pushback the sequel trilogy got, because of the pushback the Acolyte got. If you were talking about a movie directed by a woman starring Daisy Ridley's Rey.
Who's directing it?
Let me see if I can pull that up. It's not a filmmaker I am familiar with.
But it's a chica?
Yes.
It's Charmine. Oh, man, I forget her name. Charmine Pinoy. Something like that.
Anything we've seen?
She's a documentarian.
I love when documentarians go over to features. They know how to tell a story and what to follow.
One episode of Miss Marvel, I believe. She did the episode 5 of Miss Marvel. But that was her only live action stuff. The rest of the stuff she's done is documentary.
Yeah, Charmine Obaye Chinoy,
yes.
Canadian Pakistani journalist.
That's cool.
Film career.
I wonder, but my issue sometimes is like, I want new blood in Star Wars. However, sometimes I feel like they do that so they can bully them into making the movie that they want to make.
Yeah, for real.
So they get directors that they're like, listen, you're just kind of there by face, as opposed to trusting their art.
Marvels. Yeah, the Marvels.
Well, to be honest, I feel like that's my thing with the Rey movie too, especially after the Acolyte, is that I personally feel like I just feel like we're reaching a trend now where Disney will hire a person of color, behind the scenes filmmaker, marginalized creator, probably someone who doesn't have a lot of movies to their name, and then they'll let them make what they want to make, and then they'll go inside the editing room and just be like,
shred
chip, and then they're like, what'd you make? This movie makes no coherent sense. And I'm like, yes, because you cut everything out that made coherent sense.
Yeah.
And then they'll throw the filmmaker under the bus, Nia DaCosta, and then claim that, well, we tried with her and she was busy doing other stuff and her mind was in the clouds. And it's like, no, she made a great film.
Yeah.
And you guys just shredded it.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I could feel the editing in that movie so much.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let 5 minutes pass without just a cut to another scene.
Weirdly,
I just hope that doesn't happen with Rey.
Yeah,
that would suck.
Weirdly, the Rey movie is being written by Stephen Knight, who's the creator of Peaky Blinders, which is a show I love. I don't love everything Stephen Knight's done, but I love Peaky Blinders. And that is interesting. That would not be my first thought for a writer of the Rey movie. On the Discord, Mike Joyce asks, keeping with the stuff we know we're getting, Mike Joyce asks, does the fan reception of The Acolyte make you concerned for Skeleton Crew? There's a lot of kids in the cast, and we've all seen how the fans, quote, fans, went after Jake Lloyd. I can answer that one quickly before I throw to you guys. Yes, I'm concerned for the kids in the Skeleton Crew. Yes.
Like you're concerned for the actors that play the children?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
This is the project that I'm the least excited for right now. It just isn't speaking to me from what we've seen of it. I was like, I think that this might not be for me. And if it's not for me, I really hope that it is for the kids and that people really love this.
Yeah.
So, maybe we find a mature society that watches this, and if it's not for them, they realize that Star Wars is allowed to make things for kids, and they just don't make fun of the kids. maybe. I watched, this is kind of a weird tangent, but spoiler alert for something Real Rejects. I watched Interview with the Vampire for the first time.
The movie or the show?
And no, the movie.
Okay.
Never seen it.
No.
I had a really hard time getting through it because of watching what's happening with poor little Kirsten Dunst at age 11.
Yeah.
And nobody had warned me about this. Have you guys seen that movie?
Yes.
I just feel like, holy shit, we don't protect children in this industry over and over again. And it makes me really like look at everybody and you think about their parents, you think about the fellow adult actors in the room, you think about the producers, you think about the directors, and you wonder like what the actual fuck is going on here. I'm not saying anything like that is going on in Skeleton Crew, but it does really make it difficult when you start seeing grown people on social media shred children.
Yeah.
And you think like, this is the worst of us. Holy shit. So yeah, DJ, I'm definitely with you. I always get nervous for the kids. Even though this one might not necessarily be for me, the one thing I'm not going to do is go and make fun of children because they're children.
Yeah.
So that would be crazy.
Anders, how are you feeling about Skeleton Crew?
Yeah, I feel like also the little girl who played young Leia got just absolutely destroyed.
Like that, why? That's so sad
because
and disturbing.
If I'm being honest, Roxy, I just feel like people are really just because I'm so like deep, like, you know, submarine James Cameron level deep inside this fandom. People don't realize just how vile this fandom is. It's so vile. It is the darkest side of it. Is 4chan. Like,
where did that happen? When did that happen? Where did this come from?
So
and why?
Yeah,
this came from 2014. Yeah. So 2014, 2013. This was Gamergate. I don't know if you remember.
Okay.
Gamergate,
Yep.
So this started there, and then in 4chan, which
I don't know what that is. Can you give me a brief?
So it's like a really fringe, far right, almost kind of like a lot of like a couple of like mass shooters have come from this website.
4chan.
Oh, it's like a website.
No, 4chan. What?
Oh no, 4chan. I know. Are you talking about Gamergate?
Gamergate was a kind of like a protest movement for right wingers that they didn't want to see women in video games.
Yeah, comics had a similar thing. Yeah.
They were tired of seeing like women talk about video games in their media, and they were tired of seeing women in video games. So they were just doing
like a movement of people who didn't want women in media.
Yeah, and we had a similar thing with Comicsgate, which was pretty much the exact same thing. Like, it frustrates me that 1% of comics is written by women, so I'm going to be mad about that.
Yeah.
But are they saying it out loud? We don't want women in games, or they're saying something out? Oh, they're saying
it out loud. Yeah. So that turned into conversations on 4chan, which turned into, hey, have you guys seen the trailer for the new Star Wars movie that's coming out? And then that turned into boycott episode 7, which was based on, we don't want to see a black guy in the movie. They literally would say this. They would say, hey, why is there a black stormtrooper? I don't know if you remember that, Roxy. And then they would say...
Sounds accurate.
Yeah.
They would say, we don't want to see a woman lead Star Wars. And then that's how dark this fandom has come from. Like, that's the place it comes from. It comes from pure, blatant racism and sexism. And then from there...
Those people are American adults?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoa. And then they have their fandom and they have their channels that create this hatred, and they make rage bait accounts that don't even talk about the show. They just talk about pictures of the show that feature people of color. So this is a fandom that really just harbors an absolute far right kind of ideology. So
what percentage of the fandom is this?
See, this is a conversation where a lot of people might disagree with me, but since this is my opinion, I think it's a large percentage, because I if you talk to a lot of positive Star Wars content creators who are like, we love Star Wars, most of them are positive. I disagree. I kind of feel like it's 60-40 now, or maybe 50-50, because I just feel like they're able to, I just mentioned this before, they're able to throw in keywords, throw in kind of curveballs, throw in like little like softball little mentalities of saying, hey guys, when you destroy the Acolyte or when you shred these actors, don't say you're racist like we are. Like, make sure you guys hide it a little bit. So
they
sure
started by saying they were racist, but then they grew to know that that's not.
They still are.
Results.
I'm simply saying the fans of them. Their fans know that we're not going to say, hey, we don't like a black woman. We're going to say fire in space. Like that guy who says fire in space is like a white supremacist. Like he's a well-known white supremacist.
Yeah.
I know him because he's made videos about me and videos about other content creators, and he's just a blatant white supremacist.
To that point,
he says fire in space.
Not to graft onto a bad faith argument, but after just seeing Alien Romulus, it's like funny that this movie's been out a week, and with Acolyte immediately was fire in space, but with Romulus, we're not talking about how insane the ring around that planet is, how like nonsense insane that ring is. That's a huge plot point, but whatever. I guess Alien's getting a pass on that.
I'm stuck on this right now because I've wondered this for a long time, and because this isn't my fandom, even though I watch everything that comes out from it, it's just not my I don't know as much about it as I do other things. You're saying prior to 2014 this didn't exist?
No, this was, but it wasn't this well organized, and it wasn't this blatant as far as an agenda. They weren't necessarily trying to create like a right-wing movement like they are with Gamergate or Comicsgate, and then eventually leading to the sequel trilogy. This obviously existed. I mean, I grew up a prequels kid where people hated the prequels and told me I was dumb. But I felt like that came more from a place of just like Star Wars fans are just angry and mad. This came from like, let's organize that anger. Let's make it, put it into a system and put it into something where people can get a political agenda out of it.
And the goal is to make money, or the goal is to get all white men on TV? Like, what's the goal?
The goal is two things. The goal is obviously to make money because it is a grift. But secondly, and I saw someone post this last night, someone who has been following this as long as I have, and they said it creates a perfect opportunity to push people. And I mean, I don't want to talk about DNC, but you could kind of see it push people to the right, where now like the center is now going slowly over to the right. And you're seeing this common stuff that people didn't say out loud, this common thoughts that people would probably say is far right are now just considered right. And is now just considered normal. We're pushing this political agenda as far as getting people to the far right as much as possible with the media you watch. So they want you to have a critical eye and a critical lens when it comes to seeing Black people on screen, queer people on screen, anyone that is seen as other, that is not the white-centered man on screen, is now a threat to their existence, is now them, not existing on screen anymore. They only want to see a certain thing on screen. And that comes from a obviously white supremacist, far right agenda. So that is a secondary goal. Obviously, the primary goal is still always making money. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like it's hard to just, especially after the Acolyte news, I refuse to, and I've had debates with Star Wars fans in the past who just disagree with me and say, that's not true. That's a minority of the fan base. It's just a loud minority. I disagree. I feel like now it's a big part of the fan base, and we have to stop ignoring them and treating them like they're just 10% of the fandom. And they're have such a heavy influence that everything that Disney Star Wars content creates is now so evil to them that even if it's children, they have to humble these kids. They have to destroy these kids. They have to make sure these kids do not feel welcome, so that Star Wars knows that they are not welcome. Not Star Wars. Disney knows that they are not welcome in Star Wars. So that is why.
What do you do if it really is 50%, which I have no idea if that is, I believe you, because this is your fandom. I mean, like you said, PhD in Star Wars fandom. So, if it is 50% and you are Lucasfilms or you are Disney, and you just found that The Acolyte is the lowest viewed show that you guys have done, and it was extremely expensive, what do you do as a business?
Well, I kind of feel like they're telling you what they're doing now with the cancellation of the show, or with the show not coming back. I personally feel like they're saying, you know what? We're raising our hands up. You guys win. We want the biggest money too. You guys are our customers. You guys have been telling us you don't want to see Black people. You don't want to see queer people. we're listening to you. Like that, this is their message to me that they told us when this news was announced on Monday or Tuesday.
I feel like the first time you felt that way. You felt like before that Star Wars was not catering to them, and now this is the major shift.
Star Wars was quiet. I felt like they were quiet. They were trying to like see, let's see what side wins. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see the numbers. And now they've kind of waited to see who the victor was, and they feel like the victor is the toxic side. And now they're saying, hey, these bigots have money too. Let's not, shoo them away by showing black people. Let's try to hide the black people as much as possible. Let's only show a guy in a mask with his beautiful little baby. No hate to that show, but I just feel like this is kind of what they're aiming for now. They're aiming for stuff that's so like non-consequential, non-offensive, not in your face in any kind of way, or just not, really doing anything creatively when it comes to who's in front of the camera. So I personally feel like, especially this with the RDJ stuff just kind of confirms it for me. The RDJ stuff just really makes me feel, and I was at Hall H Comic-Con. I just feel
Roxy, you and I were the only ones not at Hall H that day.
We're so uncool. We're so uncool.
I just feel like this is them saying, don't worry, guys. We're listening to you. Hey, you bigots out there, we got you. Like, we're bringing back RDJ. We're going back to the beginning, back when it was 3 white dudes leading the MCU.
Yeah.
This is what they're telling us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? They're telling us that they want the bigots' money.
And even if they're not articulating that directly, I do think it speaks to a couple of things of the idea of playing it safe, which again, when you're talking about something with such huge numbers, I think to answer your question, Roxy, I think what might have been more forward thinking business-wise and creatively and all that stuff, not that they care about the creative part, but I think you say like, you know what, we are going to do Acolyte Season 2. We are going to spend less money on it though, just to see if we can get, have this show find its audience, and at least give, what was it, Leslye Headland, like, hey, by the way, you might want to wrap this baby up just in case by the end of Season 2, any lingering stuff, you might want to wrap that up.
Because Season 1 really ends on not a cliffhanger as much as I'm so excited about the next part of this story.
Yeah,
I think that to your guys' point right now, the one thing that I was really questioning it, and I think that this goes exactly to what Andres was just saying, is why did they announce that they weren't coming back for Season 2? Why didn't they just not come back for Season 2? Mm-hmm. Like, why did they make that an announcement? There's so many.
They technically didn't. It was Deadline who made it. Deadline found sources who heard the news, and then they just made this huge announcement.
But why? Like, why not give it a year and see? There's so many Star Wars shows that they let breathe, and then they figure out whether there is an audience, whether there's not. Like Book of Boba Fett or whatever. Yeah. I mean, what's going on there? I have no idea.
Well, and I think it's not coming back.
Yeah, but I think that also goes to another thing.
Did they announce that right afterwards?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, but it just kind of like faded, right? Yeah.
I think this goes to another conversation you and I have been having, Roxy, about what is was Obi-Wan or Book of Boba Fett ever going to have a second season? Are they built that way? Is it like WandaVision where it's an event show? What does that mean? What are we doing with TV? But to kind of wrap up with Andres' point is that, it is, and I'm hoping that we're reaching a phase where this might be less of a case moving forward, but everything's a goddamn culture war, because there's a lot of money to be made to being like, hey, are you angry? I'm angry too. I'm going to tell you what to be angry about. And good news, it's not systemic issues. It's a TV show. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of money telling people that they're right. And I'm kind of hoping that we're getting to a stage where that, because I'm tired of being like, hey, why are you making X-Men political? I don't know, man. It really feels like you're the one making X-Men political. Also, this stuff's always been political. Stop yelling at me. But I do want to end, to Roxy just pointed out, not necessarily the show ended on a cliffhanger, but with a lot of things up in the air. Cracker Please in the Discord says, do you think we'll ever get to see more stories or resolution for either Osha or the Stranger / Kamir in TV or film? I feel like they've got I feel like they've got really interesting potential, but think they may get pushed to books or graphic novels thanks to the online hate, which makes me disappointed for the actors too.
Andres?
Probably not. I would say I would definitely say books or comics for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely see a comic with them.
But Andres, I don't read the books or the comics.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely unfair for actors like Manny Jacinto and especially Amandla.
These are two of the hottest people that have ever been in Star Wars. I want them on my screen.
I feel like it's definitely unfair, especially for Amandla, who had a huge burden to carry when it comes to the type of hatred she received. Yeah. That opens up another conversation that I know we don't want to get into, but when it comes to Lucasfilm kind of staying silent when it comes to their hatred, I know that's been a huge topic of conversation as well, where it just feels like I made this analogy in my podcast earlier this week on Sabak, where I talk about it feels like let's say there's a racist outburst in a store and you're an employee of that store. You want your manager and your store to step in because it is a racist outburst. It isn't just the customer. The customer's always right. It's not always right. Like if there was a scenario in your side of grocery store or something and you see like just some crazy customer screaming at someone in a racist manner, you would hope the manager would step in and say, hey, don't do that. Yeah. And that's kind of what we were hoping for when it came to Lucasfilm being like, hey, Amandla's our lead. Don't do that. If you're doing this, maybe you're not welcome in this store. And the fact that they refuse to do that kind of makes me feel like they want their money and they want those returning customers. And it's just disappointing. So
I think that's a really fair comparison. Yeah. But I also think that like the managers that I've had at a little mom and pop place are not beholden to their shareholders. Mm-hmm. And it's like such a different standard that Disney's holding themselves to. And I just think that there's no world in which they were going to step in for a non-binary queer person of color. They've showed us that. We just saw that with the sequels. Yeah, we saw with the sequels what it took to not step in. I mean, poor what the hell is Rose's name?
Yeah,
Kelly Marie Tran.
Kelly Marie.
Poor Kelly Marie Tran. That was crazy. I feel like Kelly Marie Tran had it worse than anybody we've ever seen. Yeah. And everybody was just like, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. Like, that was wild to watch, especially because she's so fucking good. Yeah. So it was just like, wow, this is crazy what's happening right now. And you can look over and they're twiddling their thumbs. Yeah. So I just think it's not the first time we've seen it, but I'm with you. I think that is something as a society that we should hold them to the fire for. If that's what we care about, which on this in the House of OSA we do, then we have to hold them responsible and accountable for it. And unfortunately, the only thing you can do is put your money where your mouth is. So. And
unfortunately, there are concerns. I don't know how valid they are, but I've been seeing people sharing concerns that this might get the Willow treatment where it's yanked from the platform. And on a much lower scale, would be crazy. That would be crazy. I've also been waiting for Star Wars Black Series to put out the Stranger action figure. And I'm now concerned that won't happen because... You're leaving money on the table, Disney. I would buy that action figure, but
one good thing is that Manny is very, very obviously about to blow up. We immediately heard about the parent, the Freaky Friday, Lindsay Lohan casting. I've loved Manny for years now, and he hasn't been a household name. He's about to be like the next massive, big, huge megastar. So at least we have that.
Mm-hmm. Can I throw something out there? And I know we're finishing up. Yeah. Kind of echoing that, Roxy. I was thinking about this last night. Someone tweeted out, and this is me just being a fan of X-Men, but someone said, "Who can make a great Cyclops?" Yeah. I was like, Manny would kill it as Scott Summers, and I feel like that again. Hopefully that they would want to do something like that because I see that they're now afraid to try and throw a curveball into what Scott Summers is. But that would be, I think he'd be a great addition to like an X-Men or like a major property franchise, like you're saying, Roxy, because I think he is on the come up of something huge where he can be the next Pedro or the next, big major superhero.
Don't worry. We don't want to be political. Therefore, our live action X-Men will continue to be mostly white. All right. Don't you? For the most part. Don't you worry about it.
Well, it's going to be the same, according to Hector.
No, he was okay with them recasting the X-Men. He was okay with recasting the X-Men.
Yeah, but he said we're not going to. He was okay with us doing it, but he says we're not going to for 5 more years or more.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep recycling. God damn it, Hector.
Well, You're right. Listen. Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
Everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
Andres, remind the kids at home what they should be looking out for from you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Squad Leader Ace, and then obviously at First Cut, my YouTube channel, First Cut TMO on social media, and my Star Wars show, Sabak the Block, which is coming back every week. I just did an episode earlier this week talking about holidays, so check that out.
It's called what, the block?
Sabak the Block.
What's that?
Sabak is the card game from the Solo movie. Yeah. It's from Han Solo plays a card game.
Wild cut. Okay, Sabak the Block.
Yeah, check that stuff out. I want to thank everybody that joined us. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. If you want to check out my personal channel, you can do that at DJ Talks Trash. Go over, check out some of our exclusive content over at patreon.com/only stupid answers. But if you want to follow us on social media, that's only at only stupid answers everywhere, but on Twitter /X.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
And we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.